At its height in July, there were 46 countries talking about this on internet. It was incredible. That sculpture, for a brief moment of time, was the best known sculpture in the entire world. And just because I stuck a bit of paper on it. We had an exhibition down at the Wood called Open Up Sheffield, and it was just sort of not many people had seen it finished, and I thought, well, I'll not make a big deal of it, but I'll just put it out so people can see it. And a guy called Steve Ayres saw it and he went green.
World of Superheroes sponsored an artwork exhibition in Sheffield called Heroes. We asked Andrew if he would basically want to exhibit at the show, and he said he would create a sculptor especially for the show, a bespoke piece, and we thought, well, that's fantastic. He explained to me he'd found this box of comics quite a while ago on the top of a skip. The whole idea was it was a surprise for me and for Holly, who were running the exhibition, and to say I was surprised when I first saw it would be an understatement. I wasn't sure what to actually think. Had Andrew put them on as a, just to wind me up, for a comic collector to actually see Avengers #1, a really good condition Avengers #1, attached to it the inner thigh of this beautiful 6-foot statue, was quite a shock.
To discover it was amazing. In our exhibition it was even better. Been a comic fan, I think, putting these in little plastic boxes never to be touched again. It's not really the point of comic books and superheroes in general. So I loved the sculpture and that it was a part of our exhibition.
Mainly there were a run of very early Avengers. I think I identified probably 6 Avengers comics between #1 and 14. The other numbers may be also on there, but there's many layers to the statue.
He was very descriptive, and he mentioned that I'd made a bit of a mistake and that he probably could have got me some money for those comics.
So obviously I told Andrew potentially what he had done. I don't think he believed me at first, but eventually he did. We looked through the rest of the comics. Unfortunately, the good ones he had used on the statue, and even all these weeks later, every time I think about it, it's completely mixed feelings. He got over it a lot quicker than I did, let's put it that way.
The inspiration behind Paperboy was a simple inspiration. My son was taking the newspapers as a job to earn a few pennies. And where we live, up in sticks, when the wind blows, it blows sideways. And he's out there in all weathers and raining and all sorts. And I sort of blew this up in my mind to being a superhero who goes out in all weathers and delivers the news. That's how superheroes are formed, isn't it? They're just normal people, but they do something extraordinary. Taking the papers in the rain and the snow is an extraordinary thing to want to do for a few pence.
Andrew is just not a materialistic person. Money doesn't really mean that much to him, so the fact that he's used expensive comics to make an inexpensive statue is, I think, a source of great jollity for him, actually.
Make no mistake, if I'd have known those comics were worth 20 grand, trust me, I would have gone to the bank manager and said, look, I'm paying me overdraft off, not a problem. This is quite a naive piece of work. It was done with the best possible taste.
People simply do not know, unless you're involved in that, the superhero culture or the collectibles culture, how much these things are actually worth. After it happened, I got a lot of phone calls, certainly from America, saying, you know, first of all, how could this guy be so stupid? But that is completely unfair, because there's a lot of things I don't know the value of that the other experts do. Most people were just, it was like, don't, you know, an Homer Simpson moment that, oh, you know, God, what has he actually done?
A lot of people found it quite upsetting in a way. I mean, I think it depends. There's a fine line between being a comic fan and an artist. For a hardcore comic fan, I suppose they didn't see it in that kind of way.
Comics, they're not just for collectors and, you know, and people who are looking out to make a fast buck. You know, people like to own them, but it's also a piece of history, especially if it's been passed down from father to son, like a family heirloom.
Comics are incredibly beautiful pieces of art. They were going to be thrown away and destroyed. Some would say that I've destroyed them now, but I don't actually believe I have. I put them on show for the whole world to see. People who didn't know anything about comics now know Avengers #1 is worth 20 grand.
I can sort of understand the disdain from the comic book fans, because, you know, these are massively historical issues.
We've mentioned it a couple of times to some of our customers in the shop. It's almost like, you can almost look as though they've lost a friend.
I suppose in a way it's a good thing, because at least it's been repurposed and he's done something positive with it.
Making a statue out of comics, yeah, it's no big deal. Silver Age stuff, you know, #1's £20,000, or is it $20,000 or whatever? Oh, no, yes, he should have done his research.
The value of something is personal, really, especially something like that. It's, you know, I don't know if you should be aware that, you know, this piece of marble costs $50,000. This comic costs $20,000. You know, in that sense, you know, am I making something that's worth more? Maybe not financially, but culturally, by producing this piece of work.
Some people have really took it on board and thought it through and make a valid comment, and then other people sort of, they just see that a comic has been destroyed, and their vision is really blinkered on the fact that a comic's been destroyed.
I'd be like many comic book fans. I know exactly how they feel. They'd feel that they've lost something else to the winds of time, and it's now sat there as this static object which is completely unreadable, but in somebody's eyes it's art.
Maybe if they thought a little deeper about all these things and explored it for what it is, it's not actually being destroyed, it's still there. And more people will view it than would have viewed it in a plastic bag in a collection somewhere.
Yeah, if he's not really that concerned about it, it's not really anybody else's business, is it?
I mean, I haven't seen it myself, but I'll be there, stood there sort of, if I could just have a word with him.
It went from comics to being a statue, and now I think he wants to make it into a statement.
I think when I was talking to him before, he said he was going to set it on fire. I think when I was talking to him before, he said he was going to set it on fire.
Originally, I created Paperboy to put on the bonfire at November 5th and as a Guy Fawkes, and then that sort of evolved into this thought of having like a Viking funeral, put him on a raft and set him off down the lake and shoot flaming arrows at him.
So for him, it'd be great, but obviously comic fans, I doubt they'd take too well to that either.
It'd be nice for it to not get sort of like, you know, burnt to cinders, really.
To me, it would be such a shame to actually lose the piece. I just cannot. I think that would be quite distressing for me.
I think it would be a shame to dispose of him now. I'm not totally convinced that he needs to go or he should go. I think as a superhero, he's got some good to do.
Go over to San Diego right now, there's a comic convention happening. If you can fly over there with this sculpture and get Stan Lee to sign it, then like stick it up for auction. Yeah, get it on eBay.
I would prefer to see the comic itself, you know, rather than what is done to it.
Just a message for future artists. When you find a load of old comics in a skip or a dustbin, or you've had them, you know, given to you, do your homework first. Find out how much they're worth before you turn them into a statue. Thank you.